When you start to realize and learn how to apply the arc with your body and not the jump, then you apply those skills to any jump and you can create consistency across different types of jumps. So you just learned how to jump. You've cleared all the jumps in your local jump park, or perhaps all the jumps in your local jump lines. You're feeling super confident, like you can take on the world, like you finally cracked the code and you are a jumper. And congratulations, because that's a lot of hard work. You should be proud of it. You've earned it. But if you are like so many other mountain bikers, what will happen is you will take that skill to another location, different jumps, different jump lines, a different bike park. And suddenly the jumps are going to look different, they're going to be built different, and they're going to be new, they're going to be fresh, and so will that concern, that anxiety. You will suddenly feel like all skill is gone, your confidence is gone. You can't jump anymore. And that is completely normal because that is the typical progression for individuals learning how to jump. So here's the thing, new jumps could look steeper. So you're riding into a jump and suddenly it looks steeper than what you were used to, and the skill that you built, the technique that you have, can address the steepness. And a lot of steep jumps have high arcs and the distance is shallow, right? So they're not long and low arcs that you are used to. So how do you do that? What about this? What if you have a jump, a normal jump, and you have a short on-off, like a whale tail? What are you going to do with that skill that you just built? Or this, how about a step up where you have to jump and land higher than the takeoff? The skill that you have will push you right into the front of the landing. Or maybe even this, how about a little tiny jump with a turn directly after it? So the skill that you have would put you into that turn with too much speed and you would blast right through that turn. Those are all very common scenarios because what you have done is you have learned to jump without controlling your arc. You control the transition. You can control not getting bucked. You can control those forces that are pushing back on you. But you're using speed and you are not creating the arc with your body. That's completely normal. The good news is I have a little exercise that you can do to help you build control of that arc with your body. And the better news is you don't even need to do it on a jump to start off. So let's get moving and let's start riding. All right, so first things first, just find yourself a nice flat section somewhere, whether it's on a trail out of the way or in a parking lot, it doesn't matter. The goal is it's just going to be flat. And what we're going to do here is we're going to learn the idea of how our body mass kind of controls the arc and how to transition our body mass into the arc. And to do that, we need to figure out how we leverage our body mass on the bike. So all we are going to do is ride into this flat section, keep our legs bent, transition our weight back slightly without pulling on our arms, just enough to get the front wheel off the ground. It'll look something like this. Again, it's just gonna look like this. It's not aggressive, it's just enough to pull your front end up slightly, right? So we're not thinking that we're going to bunny hop, we're just transitioning our weight to the back wheel. Why is that important? Because when we extend into our arc, we want to make sure that our back wheel is weighted enough that it pushes through the entirety of the transition. By shifting our weight back a little bit, now we're not really thinking about bunny hops yet at this stage, nor do we ever really have to unless we want to really boost a jump. But we really want to make sure that our rear wheel is weighted, and this kind of helps us learn how much of our body mass transitioning back will do that for us. So again, we're not pulling with our arms, it's just very subtle. Once you have mastered like that transition of the body mass and what that feels like to stay in control and to keep it smooth, the next thing you want to do is think about extending forward, right? So once again, we're going to come in slow. We're going to transition back and forward, okay? And now the forward motion is a little bit more aggressive, but it's not like a jump. It's not like a pop with the legs. It's just an instant transition forward, okay? Let's look at it again. One more time, we go back and forward. And what you are going to notice is that your rear wheel is going to start coming off the ground a little bit. You are essentially doing just a baby bunny hop without a lot of like thrust with your legs. It's just all about body mass transitioning from the back of the bike into an arc to the front of the bike, right? So we're gonna rock up to our front wheel. So we're gonna go back and rock up to our front wheel, okay? It's very, very subtle. We're not throwing ourselves forward out of control. just enough to take all of the weight off of our rear wheel. From the hips, back, forward from the hips. And what that forward from the hips is doing is it's kind of the starting process of transitioning us into our arc with our body mass. Then what you can do is you can add like power and strength to it, and aggression, and then you'll have the birth of popping jumps. But right now we're just kind of learning what our body mass is going to do. So the next step is, once you kind of mastered that, there's little tiny transitions from your rear wheel to your front wheel, and your back wheel comes off the ground a little bit. What we are going to do is going to find a roller. We don't want to jump yet at this point, just a simple roller, a bump, little hill, whatever you want to call it, a mound. So here's my roller, here's my mound, here's my bump. You're gonna have to bear with me because the lighting is brutal right now, but it's not a jump. What it is it's a pump roller. So you use something like this to gain speed, but we are going to use it to build jumping skills. Essentially what we are going to do is we are going to see how much air we can learn to get on just a roller, utilizing the front of it, but still land on the back side of the roller. We don't want to clear it and land in the flat. It's going to sound like an impossible task for individuals that just clear jumps with speed. It's going to sound like an impossible task for individuals that don't know how to control an arc. They're just going to cut through the arc and land beyond the landing of the roller. This is why we're bringing it back down to the small jumps, the small rollers, to learn this stuff. So our next step is to utilize that skill of transitioning our body weight from slightly back behind the bottom bracket to the front. We're going to apply that to a little roller and see what that can do for us. But the important part now is understanding the timing. So we want to keep our rear wheel weighted. So we want to transition that weight to the point where our rear wheel is weighted the whole way up the roller. And then we transition to the front when our rear wheel leaves the roller. So it's going to look something like this. Just real slow right here. I'm just coming in super slow. So that might not have been perfect, but it was good enough to kind of teach us what we're trying to learn here. So essentially what I did was subtly transitioned my weight a little bit behind the bottom bracket to the back of my bike as the rear wheel was coming up. What that did was it unweighted the front of the bike, and then I just used that shifting motion with my body mass to shift to the front wheel the moment that my rear wheel hit the apex of the roller. Let's look at it again. So see how I was high in the bike and I was sort of rigid. That's okay right now because we're really trying to learn how we control our upper body mass. We know how to do this with our legs, right? But we're trying to control this and the hinge and what our body mass up top will do. And what that did for me is it made me find a little baby arc on this little tiny baby roller. So now as you do that, okay, you're going to work on your timing. If you have to, you can draw a line in the dirt. I would not recommend putting a stick on a roller that other people are riding, but what you can do is, just draw a line, and if you can see your tire tracks, try to reference where your tracks break that line. But really our goal is that our rear wheel breaks that line. So it may feel goofy, but you have to do that a bunch until you get that feeling of what it's like to push into that rear wheel the whole way through the transition. Once you feel as though you are confident transitioning a little bit of weight to the back of the bike with proper timing to then transfer it to the front of the bike, then we're going to start working on our legs and put some leg motion into it. And what that's really going to do is build a higher arc on just a small, shallow jump like this. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to hinge, bend my legs a little bit more, do the same thing, and pop ever so slightly. Just a very subtle pop into my extension in that body mass that's really kind of controlling it. When you drive your legs into that, it becomes kind of an easy arc that you're creating. Let's try it again with a little bit more power in the legs. So as you start to gain control and you find that arc being natural and smooth, all you're then doing is adding more strength into your legs to feed into that arc, okay? And you just want to make sure that as you work up through that process, that you are pinpointing whether your timing is still accurate or if your timing is off. And remember, you want to push your rear wheel as far up the transition as possible. So what you have just done is you have created a high arc on a shallow jump. What that will help you do is control your arc into things like step ups, whale tails, steep jumps with shallow distances, jumps that go into turns, because you're not relying on speed, you're relying on the power of a high arc, which really allows you to pinpoint where you land. I'm pinpointing my landing to be just on the backside of this roller. I'm trying to get as high of an arc as possible with no help from the transition. The arc is in my body. When you start to realize and learn how to apply the arc with your body and not the jump, then you apply those skills to any jump and you can create consistency across different types of jumps. Anyway, this was meant to be just a short, quick exercise that anybody can do anywhere. As always, when you move up, be careful, take it slow, master the small stuff, be a small jump hero before you're a big jump zero. And if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Peace.